Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and we all were lied to. Now ladies and gentlemen, today's video is all about Bayonetta. Now if you don't know the Bayonetta franchise, short history, it's a franchise that's been running for a few years, action-adventure, kind of like Devil May Cry. If you ever played the first one back in the Xbox 360, it became like a big Nintendo Switch exclusive. Bayonetta 2 is on the Switch, and Bayonetta 3 is coming out in like literally a couple days. So the reason why I'm talking about Bayonetta is not because of some deep love of the franchise, but actually a bit of the drama surrounding the voice actor and payment, okay? Now to understand, this is something that I waited on for a few days. I know that you've probably seen this video already, covered by a bunch of other channels, but when it comes to me, I only like to make one video and basically research it as much as I possibly can, simply because I want to have like the most informed video on this, and I want to actually make like the most informed assessment of the situation, right? And to do that, you gotta wait a few days, because let me tell you something, there's two sides to every story. Now, a couple days ago, the Bayonetta voice actress, Hellena Taylor, actually made a video where she basically detailed that she made like $4,000 on the entirety, or she was given $4,000 to do all the voice acting for Bayonetta 3. Now, of course, she posted these like big Twitter videos, like 3 of them, and we're gonna basically watch all of them, because this kind of set the world on fire for a little bit. It still kind of has. Friends, worldlings, Bayonetters, hear ye! And she's tagged everyone, okay? The whole squad's over here. The entire Avengers have come together. So let's actually watch it and sort of see what's going down, okay? Let's get this side of the story.
Hello, my name's Hellena Taylor, and I am the voice of Bayonetta, and I would like to explain to you why I didn't voice Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta franchise made an approximated $450 million. That's not including merchandise.
Source? Actually, I want to know the source to this. So apparently the Bayonetta franchise, in Hellena Taylor's eyes, has made around $450 million, okay? I'm assuming she's saying 450 million US of A, okay? So I'm actually going to go check it and see how we came to this conclusion, because I want to know just what happened. I assume that what was going on was somebody went on to VG charts, basically jumped in, like so if you don't know VG charts, they basically tabulate a lot of sales. Back during the console war, we all basically used this website to see which game franchise was doing better. And I want to assume that what happened here was we went over here, we looked up Bayonetta, and we looked up all the total sales here, like for instance 3.09 million. And in some cases, we opened up a calculator app, and for instance, that's just one game, okay? Like one game, not even like re-releases. Yeah, multiplied by $60, I guess, and bam, here we got like 180 million in this case, right? Now, of course, if you did this for all games, I'm sure you'd come up with some weird, crazy figure. Obviously, these are not accurate figures. I'm going to assume this is maybe how Hellena did it, but these are not accurate figures because you're not counting for sales. In fact, even the VG charts doesn't calculate things like digital sales, which are numbers that often don't get sort of released. And of course, not every game unit is purchased at $60. But of course, let's go a little bit further into it. How did this like 2-game franchise make $450 million, not even counting for things like merchandise? One thing that I want to even get to the bottom of, and I don't think we really will, but I wanted to sort of do that side exploration to sort of get the idea.
What did they offer to pay me? The final offer to do the whole game as a buyout, a flat rate, was $4,000 US.
So this is where obviously things got a little wild. Imagine hiring somebody to do the entirety of your game, okay? And you're only going to give them $4,000. Now, obviously, that is a laughably low sum to offer anybody to do one entire game, right? And this got me kind of thinking, how many hours are you working on the game? Is your character even speaking, if anything? And it really makes me wonder just what the truth for the situation was. So we're going to listen to more of it and just see what she's going to come up with. But obviously, this is the quote that set everything on fire. We all thought, hey, you got paid $4,000 to do the whole game? That is obviously low. Surely that can't be true.
This is an insult to me. The amount of time that I took to work on my talent and everything that I have given to this game and to the fans. I am asking the fans to boycott this game and instead spend the money that you would have spent on this game donating it to charity. I didn't want the world. I didn't ask for too much. I was just asking for a decent dignified living wage.
So obviously she called for a boycott on the game, but what's interesting is saying the word dignified living wage. Again, I'm making these points so you remember them later on in the video when we get to the second side of the story. So remember the term livable wage, okay, real carefully. Anyways, let's move on to the second video. That's more important. Let's just get further into this rabbit hole.
I understand that boycotting this game is a personal choice, and there are those that won't, and that's fine. But if you're someone who cares about people, who cares about the world around you, who cares about who gets hurt with these financial decisions, then I urge you to boycott this game. I decided to do it to stand up in solidarity with people all over the world who do not get paid properly for their talents.
Now, I want to start off by also saying she's right about it. There's a lot of people in the industry that don't get paid a good amount, all right? You're talking not just about voice actors, you're talking about game developers, artists, quality assurance workers who get paid absolute scraps. She's not wrong that the entire entertainment industry, whether you work in video gaming or you work in television, movies, you know, online entertainment, people do get paid unfairly, all right? There's a lot of people that make a crap ton of money, and there's a lot of people who put in their hours and get absolutely nothing for it. She's not wrong when that happens, but of course, remember all of what we've covered until we get to the end.
For those of you who are interested, I'd like to go into a little more detail about the back and forth. The first thing was I was required to audition again, because sometimes voices change with time. So I auditioned for the role and obviously passed with flying colours. They then sent me an insulting offer. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to write to Hideki Kamiya. I'm going to write to him and ask him for what I'm worth.
All right, so she decided to do what any normal person in their employment would do, is absolutely put their worth on the line, okay? That much I can absolutely get down with, okay? So clearly, she was brought in, she reapplied for a role, she got the role, all right? And of course, they gave her a disgustingly low offer. So up until this point, the entire community thinks, damn, she's only getting paid $4,000. So she actually hits the game director up and asks for a higher sum. So let's listen to what happened here.
So I got a friend who has been in business in Japan to write in Japanese to him. I know he read it because I got a reply. I got a reply saying that he values greatly my contribution to the game and that the fans really want me to voice it over, and the memory of first meeting me as Bayonetta is a memory I hold dear. So I thought, great, thank God. That was when they offered me $4,000 US.
Oh, she got offered even less, and apparently now they bumped it up to $4,000, all right? So see how the chronology is just making the entire other side, the Nintendo side, the game directors, Platinum Games, look like absolute assholes.
Platinum had the cheek to say that I was busy, that they couldn't make it work with Miss Taylor's schedule. Well, I had nothing but time. They now have a new girl voicing her over. And I love actors, I wish her all the joy in the world. I wish her all the jobs, but she has no right to say she is the voice of Bayonetta. I created that voice. She has no right to sign merchandise as Bayonetta. Any more than I have the right to sign as Eva Green, even though I was her parrot on the video game The Golden Compass. That portrayal is hers and hers alone. They'll probably try and do a spin-off with Jan. Don't buy that either.
So, of course, who she's beefing with now, we've actually got voice actor beef, ladies and gentlemen. She is calling out Jennifer Hale. Now, if you don't know Jennifer Hale, Metal Gear fans probably recognize her as Naomi Hunter. She's a very, very popular actress in the world of voice acting, okay? Now, to understand, being that these are both, from what I understand, SAG-AFTRA tiered, like, unionized workers, it would be kind of weird to have, like, Jennifer Hale suddenly jump in and take the role of another unionized worker if there was actually a proper dispute. So, of course, when I saw Jennifer Hale popped in, I was wondering to myself, maybe just maybe, ladies and gentlemen, this is a little sussier than I thought. Now, I think the beef with Jennifer Hale is a little wild. Now, the thing that really rubs me the wrong way is, like, Hellena Taylor's kind of making it out like she was the sole popular reason for Bayonetta's success. I'm gonna tell you like this, okay? When you look at TV actors or, like, you know, movie actors, they're usually billed with their faces and names all over the titles. In most video games, you don't actually see an actor's name thrown in. Even games like Cyberpunk 2077 with Keanu Reeves, I still haven't seen him on the actual key box art for the game, like at least on the front cover, and like Keanu Reeves, or like somewhere on the cover, and Cyberpunk 2077, all right? When it comes to video games, a lot of actors do get replaced as time goes on. Hell, in my favorite franchise, Metal Gear, one of the biggest betrayals was David Hayter being cast aside, and you got Kiefer Sutherland in their place, even though I personally believe Kiefer Sutherland did a great job of all 4 lines done in that game, but obviously actors do get traded around. I think this idea that she has no right to the character is a little wild. At the end of the day, you didn't get the job, somebody else did, they voiced it, now they're actually the new actor out there. I feel like this level of entitlement, and somehow you have to be owed some tier of like some ownership to like maybe residuals or like some part of the $450 million pie makes no sense. At the end of the day, you were hired to do voice work, you did your voice work, and of course, I would say a big chunk of that game's success came from the game developers, the people who were creating the game design, not just the voice for one of the main characters. I don't think people jumped onto it because the voice actress necessarily brought them into Bayonetta. I think a lot of people jumped onto the franchise mostly because of the gameplay and how it's felt so good compared to things like Devil May Cry, or it felt like old Devil May Cry games. I don't know. That's just my assessment of the situation. Now, of course, we spent a lot of time covering the beginning of this, but I wanted to front load you with a lot of this simply because I wanted to provide every side to the story, because this is where the twists happen. See, if you waited a couple days, you found out that she was effectively lying about the situation. How do we know she's lying? Well, let's look at some future updates, okay? For instance, Platinum Games made a response to this. We at Platinum Games offer our sincerest appreciation to everyone who has contributed to creating the Bayonetta series over the years, as well as the community that has served as its foundation. We give our full support to Jennifer Hale as the new Bayonetta and align with everything in her statement. We ask people to please refrain from any further comment that would disrespect Jennifer or any of the other contributors to the series. Okay, so obviously we've got Platinum Games who are siding with the new actress, obviously, as they're probably going to. Now, where does the lie come in? All right, let's actually look into it. So, for instance, Hellena Taylor, it has come to my attention, some people are calling me a liar and a gold digger. I feel the need to defend myself and the reputation. As I posted on part 3 of my video thread, I explained that their first offer was too low. That offer was $10,000 total. So wait a minute, you said that in the original video, we can play it right now. You literally were saying that your first offer was low, you reached the game developer, and then they bump it up to $4,000? What? Remember, this is a $450 million franchise. Again, you're not entitled to that entire chunk of change, okay? I'm sure the voice actors for Grand Theft Auto 5 don't feel that they are entitled to the whole, like, multiple billions that that game has earned. Simply because they played a very vital part of the game. They obviously voiced the main characters, but they were not responsible for the creation of the game, the creation of the world, the upkeep. You get it, all right? Wirt, I thought that this was a creative he would understand. He replied saying how much he valued my contribution and how much the fans wanted me to voice the game. I was then offered an extra $5,000 or 50. I'm gonna assume that's 5,000, all right, or whatever. Maybe that's like a mistypo. So it seems like you had the offer for 10 grand, and then they upped it by $5,000. So I guess it gets up to like 15 grand. So I just declined to voice the game. I then heard nothing from them for 11 months. Obviously, they're not going to come back to you if you're going to like start upcharging. Then they offered me a flat fee to voice some lines for $4,000. How many lines? You didn't give us the action. Any other lies, such as 4 grand for 5 sessions, are total fabrication. There were not extensive negotiations. I have also been informed of ridiculous fictions, such as I asked for $250,000. I am a team player. I was just asking for a fair living wage in line with the values that I bring to the game. I cannot talk about the game because of NDAs, but I happily answered fan letters, emails, signed posters. And then, of course, she's going to post the 14 charities that you can donate to instead of buying the game from corrupt, greedy people. So because of some of her statements over here, obviously it's hard to ascertain what is true or what is not, because she went from making it sound like in her initial videos that she was paid like $4,000 for the whole thing. Then she was apparently offered $10,000, then it was up to $15,000, and you have to understand, like, there is no, like, once you have made such statements like this, it's hard to actually believe you. I think lying has a ripple effect in the entire industry. Whenever, like, you have, like, these statements, and again, it's hard to trust anybody in this situation, but given how her statements have played out over here, I don't know if I'm necessarily in her court or her side. And again, another bit of information here comes from like Jason Schreier, who's like a pretty big video game like industry expert. I may not agree with everything the guy says, but this would be the first person to jump onto any story where this guy could stick a knife into Nintendo, and if he's out there disputing this with facts that don't corroborate Hellena Taylor, there's gotta be something sussy. Now, of course, even in like his assessment, there were some sources that came out and said that she was paid like $3,000 to $4,000 for 4 hours in the studio. So obviously, if we compare it to like the industry rate, she's getting paid well beyond a fair livable wage. So obviously, you know, again, there's so many different scenarios that come into it, but clearly she's not entirely truthful about the situation, which hurts everything. Look, video game voice actors getting paid, you know, fractions of what they should be is an industry-wide ripple thing. It's been happening for a long time. You know, the first time I ever read about this was back then during GTA 4's release date, where voice actor Michael Hollick was paid somewhere around 100,000 US dollars at the time for voicing Nico Bellic. Obviously, when he voiced Nico Bellic, that was a pretty big character. But then again, you know, this person felt that they were more entitled, and it's one of those things where I kind of say, hey, if you have, and I mean if you have anybody in your court who is, you know, any of your agents, you need to argue for more money. You need to argue for a higher wage. Honestly, $100,000 for voicing some lines, if you're not doing things like motion capture, which kind of does change a few things because then you're doing more than just voiceover work, is a pretty fair wage, all right? It's definitely more than what everyone in the industry is getting. So obviously, you know, at the end of the day, it's a wild scenario indeed, and clearly it seems like Hellena Taylor is not entirely truthful about the situation, which, especially when it comes to things as heated as this, it really just paints everything in a bad light. Because to be real, there's a conversation to be had about voiceover artists getting paid absolutely less. It's the same thing with people who draw anime, animators that get paid a fraction of what they're supposed to. There is an answer to this, and there does need to be a redistribution of how much money is in a system, more headed towards the people that are working the hardest on a project versus those that are just operating in executive levels at the top. I agree. But when you got people over here who are obviously paid a fair day's wage for a fair day's work, absolutely far in excess of, given the average industry rates, they should absolutely be grateful and not going beyond their means. Because if you look at Hellena Taylor's acting credits, it's not as if she's like a hardcore like voice actress that's been working a million gigs. I understand that she's gone through anxiety and depression given the fact that she wants to make enough money being a freelancer to be able to live and eat. But when you're a freelancer, it's really up to you to find all the jobs in the world. I've been a freelancer for most of my working career. And yeah, obviously when you're on a salary, there's a bit of security towards it. Obviously when you're on your own, there's a lot of money you can make. You just have to be able to constantly put yourself out there. There is also security in freelancing because, hey, if you lose your job as a salary man, salary woman, you lose 100% of your paycheck right there. If you lose any of your contracts as a freelancer, you lose what, like 10% of your money? And then you find another contract to replace it with, hopefully even better. I'm kind of getting off topic over here. But we were lied to about the Bayonetta voice acting situation. And honestly, it's not something I feel totally comfortable about. There's obviously discussion to be had over here, but I think Hellena absolutely screwed the pooch. And some of the, you know, shade being tossed around on other voice actors, voice actresses, and the industry as a whole is a little bit childish. And this is somebody that needs to kind of like check their worth and absolutely build themselves accordingly so. You're not the reason why Bayonetta has been absolutely successful. Let's calm down the ego there and understand that what you were probably paid for and the amount of work you did after reading and corroborating with all these other sources may seem like you actually had a pretty decent deal. It's just not what you wanted. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.